All right, quick little recap of what I just did there. So I like to use an angled pick, and for disconnecting plugs, what you do is you actually just take the end here, pull up on the tab. Sometimes, a lot of times people will use pliers or squeeze these, try to yank them off, they won't come off. This just gets right in between the tab and that little piece there, and just pops up, and everything comes right off nice easily. You don't break anything. So it's a little trick I like. These fuel return lines, don't do what I did the first time I took one of these apart. I thought that you pushed in on that little tab right there. Turns out you don't. You just pull straight up on these. So don't wiggle them back and forth whenever you're trying to pull them off the injector. You want to try and pull straight out at an angle, because they're plastic. Plastic can get brittle over time and break. So ask me how I know. I broke this right here. So this return line, you can't just replace one small piece. You got to replace the whole thing. And this is actually an updated part here where you can actually disconnect it right here. I forget exactly what the old style looked like, but this just has this clip here and an O-ring. You pop this line out, you take the return line off on these 3 injectors and the injectors on the other bank. That way you can get it out of your way completely and not have it hanging out here. So that's a nice little update that Audi did. So to get to the injectors on the passenger side bank, I'm not sure the firing order, so I'm not sure what these cylinders are considered. So I'm just getting everything out of the way, disconnecting everything. I like to get wires. I just like to make as much room as possible to work and to be able to see. And that's what we are doing now. All right, so I'm not sure how I missed everything else during the disassembly, but the injectors come out pretty easily with the exception of the rear one, which I don't know if that's cylinder 6 or cylinder 5, or if they have them numbered some other weird way. But let's see if I can get a good view down in here. These ones are fucking coolant line. The first 2 cylinders are pretty clear and clean. Injectors came out easily, nice. Now the rear cylinder's a problem. I'm not sure if you can see down in there, but the copper that seals the injector into the cylinder head is down there, and it's melted, damaged, whatever the case may be. So we're going to use this to get down in there and hopefully retrieve that and go back together. So here is all 3 injectors, starting from the front, assuming that is the front cylinders 2, and that's all the even number cylinders. It's gonna be 2, 4, 6. The rear one, as you can tell, not sure if you'll be able to pick it up in the video or not, but that one has a lot of carbon and soot buildup on it, and here is the copper, and the others are pretty clean. O-rings actually look good on them yet. This one, it's all melted, bunch of carbon. So pretty easy to say that one was the problem. So we're gonna clean it up, get all nice and cleaned up, make sure the body of the injector is not damaged, that there's no imperfections. It's not melted, nothing like that. And put it back together, and hopefully that takes care of the problem that I thought was an exhaust leak. It sounds just like an exhaust leak. Has that tapping noise, and it smells like exhaust on the outside. So a lot of people think that's a leak on the manifold, and it's actually an injector seal. So we'll go back together, get it running again, and see if that took care of the problem. So these two injector bodies look really good. They're clean. I just wiped them off real quick with a rag. Cleaned up pretty nice. And here, I just wiped this off with a rag as well. And there's a lot of buildup on there. I'm not sure if you can, the camera's gonna pick it up or not. So I'm gonna have to use some brake clean, maybe really fine sandpaper if we need to clean it up some. But I think we'll be in good shape to get it cleaned up and put it back together. This is an issue that you want to make sure you take care of as soon as possible, because what's going to happen is, or what is happening is that all the pressure from that cylinder, since this seal is no good, is leaking back up through the injector cup and essentially into the valve cover, which is going to create more pressure in your valve train, your crankcase, and could cause your seals to blow out or other issues. Could also cause damage to your injectors. So you want to make sure to take care of this as soon as possible. When I'm going back together with this, I'll try to make sure I get video of everything and then outline the tools needed. It's actually a pretty easy job. I'll give you the sizes and everything that I used. Alright, so I got this injector all cleaned up. I ended up just taking my razor blade and scraping all the carbon off. Just real light pressure with the razor blade. Here's the copper crush washers. I'm not sure if the video is going to pick it up or not, but there's a taper. You're going to want the taper side down, so whenever you apply pressure, it compresses and seals. So just a tip, so you see it slides right off. Before you put the injectors in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little dab of grease on there, something to get the get that to stay in place on the injector nozzle, so whenever you go to set it down into the injector cup in the cylinder head, that as you're going through the valve cover, it doesn't fall off and does not end up in your valve train somewhere. Here is one that came off of one of the good injectors, still one piece. You can see it's slightly compressed, but overall decent shape. But we're gonna put all new copper on all three, all new O-rings. I do have the cups for the valve cover, for the seals, but I'm gonna wait to replace those in case I have another injector issue again on this injector. Maybe it's a bad injector. So then at that point, I'll go ahead and I'll replace the injectors, and I already have all the other hardware. And if not, I'll probably end up redoing the valve cover gaskets at some point. So at that point, pop the injectors out, reseal them all again. I have everything on hand to do that. All right, so put a little grease on the first one, as you can see, shaking it up and down. It's not coming off. I actually didn't use, when I meant grease, I meant something more like an assembly lube, something that's just assembly lube, something that's just I'd say like tacky, sticky, thick. Schaefer's has a product called Moly EP that would probably work. This engine assembly lube with moly and graphite, you know, that's meant to be an engine, so it's not going to damage anything. So just take like a little squirt there along the edge. Put the copper on. kind of hard to do with one hand. We'll stand her up. Fucking some bitch. There we go. So it's on there. Spin it a half turn or whatever you feel comfortable with. And with it on there, it's not coming off. Just something thick and tacky like assembly lube. Do that to all three and then you can go back together with it. So a couple things to keep in mind. You got that rear injector in already. Lube up your O-rings before you're setting them in. You don't want to have dry O-rings going in that could cause them to rip or tear or get cut. So you can pretty well centered in that grommet and they'll just slide, should slide basically right in. And get your retainer. And just a note, these are one-time use stretch bolts. So you want to make sure you replace those. Get that slid in place. If I can do it with one hand. You might have to pull the injector up a little bit. The other one I set, there we go. It's in now. And there's a little tit there that the retainer sits on. That way you know it's centered, it's in place. Make sure you clean out the bores or the injector cups, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, you just want to make sure there's no debris or material in there. That's going to prevent your O-ring or your copper from sealing. And torque specs on these are going to be 6 Newton meters. And then 90 degrees on top of that, whatever that actually comes out to be, who knows, but that's just torque specs from the book. So 6 Newton meters, and then quarter turn or 90 degrees once you hit 6 Newton meters. It's going to be a triple square for those. 3-liter CNRB diesel. It's actually been pretty reliable, been pretty decent for me. I haven't had any issues engine-wise up until this injector leak, which I recently did a tune and delete on. So maybe that has something to do with it. Runs a lot better, and even with this issue, I was getting right around 30 miles a gallon. And also had a pre-fixed transmission tune put in it, and that's just a night and day difference from what it was to what it is now as far as drivability and performance. And it gets better fuel mileage, so something I would definitely recommend doing. Just wakes it up, it runs a lot better, it's a lot more responsive. Transmission wise, it's not lethargic. I could do a whole video on that, just comparing and my experience before and after, and what that process looks like. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of the stuff back in and then go over the tools needed and everything that I did to get it apart. Alright, so it's all wrapped up, it's done and test driven. Everything turned out good. No leaks, no nothing. So good to go. And like I said, some stuff got missed. I don't know how, I guess I wasn't recording. But get the injectors out. I just took this pry bar under the hold down and just, not sure if you can see down in there. Just took it underneath the injector retainer hold down and just popped them right up. There's that. Took the return lines out of the way. These just slide up on the return lines. Oh, I can't get it right now because I got the vehicle up in the air because I'm getting ready to change the oil on it now. But literally just slide these up and the return lines come off. Undo your connections. Your fuel lines going to the injector and the rail are 17 mil. A 3/8 torque, or not torque wrench, ratchet to break the bolts loose. They're only 6 Newton meters plus a quarter turn or 90 degrees tight, so you don't need anything significant to break them loose. And just undo your wiring, get it out of the way, make it easy to work on. Take off the intake pipe going to the turbo, and this cover here, which is just 2 clips, clears all that out of the way, gives you room to work, lets you see down in there, gives you room to pop the injectors